Hi, this is Julianne Ash, Texas Tech District 4 Director. Thank you for agreeing to be a written event judge at our upcoming conference Saturday, January 13th at Klein High School. In anticipation of written entry distribution on Tuesday the 9th, I'm doing this quick tutorial to give those of you that would like it a little bit more explanation on the contents of what you will be receiving. So every student entry that is assigned to you will come in a folio, and in those folios will be some introductory elements which we are going to discuss in just a moment, followed by the student competitive entry itself. So before we take a look at those, it's just a couple things I wanted to highlight. Please make sure that you note that these folios and all of its content need to be brought with you on January 13th to conference. You will need to reference them for your notes, as well as you will use them to transfer the scores for the students onto Scantrons that will be sent to tabulations and used to determine which students will advance to state competition. So I got a couple very common questions from written event judges. One is, what type of feedback is really needed and expected of me as a written judge? And the best way that I can answer that is, it won't take you long to assess if a student has invested a sincere amount of time in putting their competitive entry together. Some papers, it's clear that that was not the case, and when I come across one that is not well organized, has poor spelling, poor grammar, I usually keep my feedback fairly brief, scoring them on the lower side of my grouping and just letting them know that the organization and improving the grammar is the best place for them to spend their time to start. For those events that I can tell the students had invested a significant amount of time and effort in preparing for competition, I try to reward that by giving them as much meaningful feedback within the paper itself that they can translate into improving it for state, because this will be a great opportunity for them to hear from you as to what they can do to even have a better position to be able to advance from state to the international level, which is the ultimate goal for the kiddos competing first at our district level. Please know that any comments that are written in your folios will eventually be returned to the students once the judging is finalized. So thoughts on the rubric scoring, that's my second most frequently asked question from written judges, is first an assurance to know that as long as you are being consistent across to every entry assigned to you, you're fine. It'll be perfectly fine. I tend to want to give all entries some positive feedback. I think that's important, but at the same time, I would err on the side of being a little bit more strict than lenient, because inflated scores can give that false sense of security. If a student gets a score of a 99, they're thinking they're got it done. Let's just take this to state, where if they had realized there were still some areas, even though it was a great paper, that they could have improved on, that could be the difference from them being a runner-up at state and actually advancing to international. So please know that any feedback that you give is really going to be valued by these students and sent back to them. And also know that if you are in one of the events that have more than one section, that we balance that out. For example, what I mean by that is, if 6 students are going to advance and there are 2 sections, the top 3 from each section will advance. So even if the other judge's lowest score is a 90 and your highest score is an 80, your top 3 and their top 3 scores will advance. So it kind of balances that out from a tabulation standpoint by judging students that way. So let's take a real quick look at what to expect in your packages. This is what I mean when I say entries will be in a DECA folio. Every individual entry will be in one of these folios. When you open it up, the very first thing you will see is this written statement of assurances. It will be completed by the students. You have no action item in regards to this page. Just leave it right where it is. The second page that will be in there is what we refer to as a written entry evaluation form. So as you are reading the written entries, you can have an idea of this rubric in advance, and you can go ahead and pencil in your scores for the written entries as you work. As you've gone through them all, try to go back and adjust. You want to have a clear delineation between your top and your lower scores. The third paper will be the presentation that is sometimes referred to as an oral evaluation. These are very specific to the individual events. As you saw in the written, this is a total of 60 points. Now in the presentation, you've got a total of 40 points. So this will be left in your folios brought with you on the 13th, and you will use this written printed form. So as the students are presenting the content to you, you will score them on their presentations. The combination of this 40 points and the 60 points will be added together for a total of 100 points to determine which students will advance. Please note that you do not need to total. There's this line item down here about penalty points that you have no action item in that regard. As long as we know what your scores are in the main rubric areas, that is what we need. You do not need to worry about totaling up everything at the end. We do that in the tabs level. It's also worth noting that there are a handful of events that only have one scoring rubric. And if you have one of those events, you'll know it because there'll only be one paper and the total points on the rubric is 100. The written entries in these events are not quite as expansive. So as you are reading them, you might want to pencil in a few notes just based on the written entry over here, but you don't want to put your final scores in until the 13th because the students really come in, they are presenting the big picture of their project, of their event, and it's really a combined score. So you want to put the final score that you want for each one of these sections in this last box, and then you'll have the total of the 100 points. This is what will be transferred to just one Scantron in these types of events, which will go to tabs. Again, please leave all of those rubrics in the folio. They will go back to tabs with the Scantron. If we have any concern, something looks funny with our tabulations, we do an anomaly check. We can then go back and pull those folios and just make sure that we've got the right scores for each student. Once everything is finalized and everything is done, the students will receive those folios back. Okay, well that is it. Again, I want to extend my sincere appreciation for your time and being a written entry judge. Our students have worked very hard and they are excited, and we are looking forward to a successful event that would not be possible without you. Looking forward to the 13th.